Take a deep breath, Notre Dame fans, because it is finally official. Marcus Freeman has agreed to a new contract with Notre Dame after receiving legitimate interest from multiple NFL teams, including the New York Giants. This is a massive day for Notre Dame football, and we're breaking it all down right here on Locked On Irish.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome in to Locked On Irish, your daily home for Notre Dame football. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, all thanks to your support. I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum, producer at Fox Sports, and I've been covering the Irish since 2020. Thank you for joining me here on Monday, December 29th, and thank you for making this your first watch or listen of the day. We're coming to you a little bit later in the day than normal because I was waiting for some news to break, and as luck would have it, that news broke. If you're new here or you've been riding with us for a while now, make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel or following along on your favorite podcast platform. And this episode is presented by Rugiet. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. Today is a great day for Notre Dame football. Marcus Freeman has agreed to a new contract that makes him among the highest paid coaches in college football. Freeman turned down at least 2 NFL teams to continue building a championship contender in South Bend, according to Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated. We are going to break down how this all came together behind the scenes, what it means for Notre Dame, and why this decision makes sense for Marcus Freeman right now. Plus, I'll explain why this could be the first move that sparks Notre Dame's championship run in 2026. So we've got a lot to get into. Let's dive right into it. And Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman have been working toward a new deal pretty much ever since this season ended, and now it's finally official. They were able to get it done. Marcus made the announcement himself on his X account at noon Eastern with this quote, 2026, ... run it back, go Irish, end quote. That's it. But throughout this whole saga, I always felt like this was the most likely outcome. But I will be honest with you, there were absolutely moments where I had my doubts. The first time I heard Marcus Freeman's name mentioned as a possible candidate for the New York Giants head coaching job, which is the job that was most associated with Freeman, that was back in November as the season was sort of winding down. But at the time, I didn't really think too much of it because NFL teams float names constantly, and Freeman's name has been hot in league circles for the past year. But things changed once Notre Dame was snubbed from the college football playoff and then they opted out of a bowl game. That's when I started to get more nervous because Marcus Freeman suddenly became available. Once the season officially ended, and it ended a lot earlier than any of us anticipated, NFL teams could contact him directly, and that's when this became real. This was very different from last offseason, which was the first time Freeman's name seriously came up in NFL head coaching searches. There were multiple reports from league sources around this time a year ago that the Chicago Bears had interest in him, but Notre Dame was in the middle of a playoff run. That's where all of Freeman's focus was. That matters because Marcus Freeman is not the type of coach who entertains other jobs while his team is actively chasing a national championship. He's not wired like that. He's not Lane Kiffin. That's just not how he operates. So how serious would the Bears have been if they had had a real opportunity? I'm not sure. But what we do know is they hired Ben Johnson the day after Notre Dame played Ohio State in the national championship, so that door closed quickly. This offseason, though, was a completely different story. Notre Dame's season officially ended on December 7th, and then once that happened, the NFL came calling hard. Reports started circulating that the Giants were interested in Freeman, and then on Saturday, December 13th, Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported that Freeman was on their list of candidates alongside 5 current NFL coaches. Then over a week later, Mike Garafolo from NFL Network reported that Freeman was the Giants' top candidate from the college ranks. At that point, it was everywhere, man, and Notre Dame fans were rightfully concerned. I was concerned too because it wasn't just smoke anymore. There was clearly legitimate traction. There was a point about a week before Christmas when I was legitimately worried because I was told the Giants were going all out in their pursuit of Marcus Freeman and that he was willing to listen. Not that he had made up his mind, but the interest was real enough that it required serious consideration from Marcus. And I believe it got to the point where Freeman and Notre Dame may have even discussed a potential exit strategy. Things like if he were to leave, which assistants might go with him, who would stay, and how the transition would work. That doesn't mean he was walking out the door, that he made up his mind or anything like that, but it does tell you how far along those conversations had gotten. But throughout all of this, Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bavacqua and everyone at Notre Dame was willing to do whatever was necessary to keep Marcus Freeman. Whether that meant more money for Freeman, more money for assistants, more NIL resources, better infrastructure, you name it, Notre Dame was willing to offer it. That's why people around the program consistently expressed confidence they could get this done. I remember when Pete Sampson from The Athletic came on the show the week after Selection Sunday, he was emphatic that Marcus Freeman would stay. He acknowledged Freeman would listen to the NFL, but that confidence reflected what he was hearing behind the scenes. Ultimately, that confidence was justified. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman agreed to a new, highly lucrative long-term extension, and that brings us to what this means for the Notre Dame football program. Because by locking in Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame is one of the few schools in the entire country that can confidently say they have their number one choice as head coach. That's truly rare company. Think about it. I think you can count it on one hand, because you've got Georgia with Kirby Smart, Ohio State with Ryan Day, Oregon with Dan Lanning, Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman, and probably LSU now that they got their guy in Lane Kiffin. Kirby Smart and Georgia are obviously a perfect match. Smart played for Georgia. He won 2 championships as a coach, and I'm not sure he'll ever leave the Bulldog program. Ryan Day and Ohio State are finally a happy couple again after clearing the Michigan hurdle and winning a national championship last season. Dan Lanning fits Oregon like a glove, and I expect he'll stick around there for a long time. Pete Bavacqua said that if you could create the perfect modern head coach for Notre Dame football in a lab, it would spit out Marcus Freeman, and now they're locked in together again. Contrast that with other programs. Alabama fans would kick Kalen DeBoer out the door tomorrow if Nick Saban wanted to come back, but that's not going to happen. Michigan just hired Kyle Whittingham, but if Jim Harbaugh wanted to return, they would move on from Kyle instantly, even with an NCAA suspension for Harbaugh waiting his return. Penn State just hired Matt Campbell, but he was nowhere near their first choice when that search began. As a matter of fact, it was Marcus Freeman. LSU was interested in Freeman. Florida was interested in Marcus Freeman, and he shot those down immediately. So there are plenty of good coaches in college football that are in great situations, but very few programs can honestly say they have got the guy they want more than anyone else. Notre Dame can say that. And that did not happen by accident. This is the result of years and years of investment in the football program. Notre Dame is now a top 10, maybe top 5 program nationally from an NIL standpoint. We've seen that they're aggressive in the transfer portal, landing big-time names like Riley Leonard and Malachi Fields and Sam Hartman in the early days of the transfer portal, and they know how to fill their needs through the portal effectively with lesser-known names like a Javonte Jean-Baptiste or a Jordan Clark. They're also elite at retaining players they want to keep. They did not bat 1,000 this offseason because Emil Wagner and Billy Schrauth are headed to the NFL, but it looks like they're going to keep Boubacar Traore, who could go to the NFL. They were able to keep Xavier Watts around for a couple of years, and they also just signed their highest-rated recruiting class of the internet era. Is there still work to do for Notre Dame football? Absolutely. You cannot afford slow starts to the season that put you behind the playoff race early on. But with Marcus Freeman secured, Notre Dame is in as good a place as it's been since the peak of the Lou Holtz era in the late 80s and early 90s. Freeman deserves enormous credit for what he has built since taking over in December of 2021, but make no mistake, this new deal proves Notre Dame is still one of the top 5 jobs in college football, and they just locked in a top 5 coach for the foreseeable future. All right, Notre Dame just locked in its future. Now let's talk about the man at the center of it all. Why did Marcus Freeman choose to stay, and why is this the right move for his career? That's coming up next. Thank you for making Locked On Irish your first watch or listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you have not already, make sure you check out our brand new Everydayer Club. You will get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Irish. Same show, same schedule, just no ads, and it works on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you use. If you listen every day, it's a really easy upgrade. Go to lockedonirish.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life, it doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rugiet Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rugiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rugiet Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. You connect with a board-certified doctor online and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and in control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready. Welcome back to Locked On Irish. Now let's talk about what this move means for Marcus Freeman. At just 39 years old, Freeman is already one of the highest paid coaches in all of college football. He's right up there with Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day, and Dan Lanning. And honestly, that's exactly where he belongs. He's already proven that he's an elite head coach at the college level. So this move isn't just about money, it's about timing. Because the college head coaching market just reset. Lane Kiffin led Ole Miss, who's actively playing in the college football playoff, to join LSU. Penn State had to hire a new coach. Michigan just hired a new head coach. So the market for elite college football coaches was as lucrative as it's ever been. So Freeman and his team smartly waited for that market to reset. Then they could sign the deal so that he could be paid alongside the best coaches in the sport. And so far, he's proven that he is one of the best coaches. In 4 seasons as head coach, Freeman has a 43-11 record. I'm not counting the Oklahoma State Bowl loss that technically served as his first game on the job. He won Coach of the Year honors in 2024 and led Notre Dame to a national championship appearance, highlighted by 2 of the biggest wins in recent program history: the Sugar Bowl against SEC champion Georgia and the Orange Bowl win over Penn State. This past season, he once again had Notre Dame in a position to compete for a national title before they just missed the cut on Selection Sunday. He's also elevated high school recruiting to one of the best operations in the entire country. Notre Dame just signed a top 5 class in 2026, and they're already trending that way again for 2027. Freeman has almost single-handedly blown up the old narrative that Notre Dame couldn't recruit at an elite level in the modern era because they were, quote, shopping down a different aisle, as Brian Kelly used to say, to excuse his own struggles on the recruiting trail. Now, on the other hand, the events from the past few weeks and the wording of Freeman's announcement specifying the 2026 season will make it harder for Freeman to recruit in the short term because every single family is going to ask him about how long he intends to stick around at Notre Dame. And other coaches around the country are going to use it as a tool to recruit against Notre Dame as well. I'm sure Freeman knows that, understands it, and he will be prepared to answer it. But all that being said, Notre Dame is currently ranked in the top 5 in the recruiting rankings for the class of 2027, and I don't expect them to slow down despite the NFL rumors. Freeman has also improved dramatically as an in-game coach since his first season. I think this is where he has improved the most as a head coach. He has evolved and grown alongside a sport that seems to be changing constantly. And on top of that, he's handled all the off-field pressure that comes with being the face of one of the biggest brands, not just in college football, but in all of sports. All of that makes him worthy of this contract, and it also explains why the NFL interest was very real. I know it frustrates Notre Dame fans to hear his name tied to seemingly every job opening, but that is the cost of having a highly coveted head coach. If Marcus Freeman's name was not coming up in these conversations, that would probably be the bigger red flag. He has earned the right to be in contention for these jobs, and he's also earned the right to be picky. Freeman turns 40 next month, and he has a very long career ahead of him. It's honestly pretty remarkable how fast his rise has been. He got his first coaching job as a graduate assistant at Ohio State, his alma mater, in 2010, right after his NFL career ended abruptly due to an enlarged heart diagnosis. And just 4 years later, he became the linebackers coach at Purdue, a Power 4 program in a major conference. And after just 3 seasons there, he was promoted to co-defensive coordinator. From there, he spent 4 years as defensive coordinator at Cincinnati, and he helped turn the Bearcats into one of the best group of 5 programs in recent college football history. Then came Notre Dame. He joined the staff in 2021 as defensive coordinator, and then he was promoted to head coach after just 1 season. And now here we are. Freeman is heading into his 5th season as head coach of the Fighting Irish in 2026 as one of the most successful and now highest paid coaches in the sport. He has done all of that in about 15 years. So imagine what the next 15 years could look like for Marcus Freeman. Because for as much as people want to talk about his desire to coach in the NFL, and I do believe that desire exists, I also believe Marcus Freeman is deeply motivated by winning a national championship at Notre Dame. He knows the history. He knows how long it's been since this program sat at the very top of the sport. And yes, I absolutely think he wants to be remembered alongside the legendary Notre Dame coaches who brought championships to South Bend. That matters to him a lot. And I don't think that aspect was fully appreciated by people on the outside throughout this process. Freeman has been to 3 national championship games, 2 as a player at Ohio State and 1 as head coach at Notre Dame. He is 0 for 3 in those games. For someone as competitive as he is, I guarantee you that motivates him. That's not something that he has accepted or that he ever will accept. That's something that fuels him, and he is going to do whatever it possibly takes to bring a national championship back to South Bend, and he understands he has a real opportunity to do it here. I'm not convinced he'll be at Notre Dame for the full length of the contract, which is believed to be 6 years, but he probably doesn't need to be. If Freeman stays another 4 seasons and he sees this recruiting class of 2026 all the way through, I feel very confident he'll have a national championship by the time that they leave. And that's a huge reason why I believe he stayed. Because if and when that happens, the NFL will still be there. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I believe Marcus Freeman does want to coach in the NFL one day, and I get it. The NFL is the peak of the sport. Most football fans in this country care more about the NFL than college football, even though I'm certainly not one of those people. And most kids grow up dreaming about playing on Sundays. Freeman was a 2-time All-American at Ohio State, and he was drafted in the 5th round by the Chicago Bears. I am sure he had massive expectations for his own NFL career, but it didn't work out. He bounced around practice squads for a little bit and then eventually had to retire because of his heart condition. I cannot imagine how difficult that must have been for Freeman, for a childhood dream to seemingly disappear overnight because of a medical issue that you didn't even know about. So I get why someone wired like Marcus Freeman would want to test himself at the highest level. I expect he will make that move someday, but there is still important work to be done before then. Once the interest from the New York Giants became clear and pretty persistent, I tried to put myself in his shoes and be as objective as I possibly could. There's no doubt the New York Giants job is appealing. It is one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. They have been around since 1925, and they've won 4 Super Bowls since 1986. They play in the biggest market in the entire country. So if you win there, if you win as the head coach of the New York Giants, you will be remembered forever. So I'm not doubting Marcus Freeman's ability to eventually succeed at the next level, and I understand why that job is appealing to him. But on the other side of the equation, he has almost no experience in the NFL, both as a coach and as a player. That would be a massive adjustment for someone who has only coached at the college level to then make that jump to the NFL. And an organization like the New York Giants is not going to give you much runway to learn on the fly. They also have one of the weakest rosters in the NFL. They are 3-13 on the season after beating the Raiders on Sunday, a win that actually hurt their draft position for the 2nd straight year. So they'll still have a high draft pick, but this quarterback class is widely viewed as one of the weakest in recent memory. And sure, they have Jackson Dart and an exciting player like Cam Scadaboo who are really entertaining to watch, but it feels like sometimes they play like they have a combined 5 brain cells between the two of them. So do you really want to stake your future on that situation? I wouldn't, and it looks like Marcus Freeman didn't either. Going forward, his name is going to continue to come up in NFL searches. That's not changing. Some people read into his reference to 2026 as him calling his shot that this will be his last year at Notre Dame. Personally, I think that's Freeman using this as leverage because as long as Notre Dame keeps winning, he should expect a raise every single year. So he's going to continue to focus 1 year at a time. So maybe 2026 is his last year with Notre Dame. Maybe it isn't. Things change, perspectives change, feelings change, all of that. Like I remember when Kobe Bryant once demanded a trade from the Lakers and said he would never wear that uniform again. And then he went on to win 2 more championships in the purple and gold. Marcus Freeman has earned the right to be selective. And at least for right now, staying at Notre Dame isn't playing it safe. It's playing it smart. All right, now that Notre Dame has Marcus Freeman locked in, the focus shifts to 2026. Coming up, why this move could be the spark that leads to Notre Dame's first national championship since 1988. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. When you open the FanDuel app during Happy Hour, it always brings something new, from boosts to bonuses and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes, and the timing is perfect, right before the games and right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, we're back here on Locked On Irish talking about the biggest news of Notre Dame's offseason so far. Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame have agreed to a new contract extension that keeps him around for the 2026 season. And whether this ends up being Marcus Freeman's final season at Notre Dame or not, 2026 was always going to be a pivotal year for this program. I've already gone on record saying that 2026 represents Notre Dame's best chance to win a national championship in my lifetime. And I'm coming up on 30 years old in 2026. And that is not something I say lightly. People inside and around the program have been building toward this moment for years, and they've spoken about it. It all starts with the most important position in all of sports. Notre Dame has its star quarterback in C.J. Carr, who will be entering his second season as a starter. And if things go as planned, Carr is going to be a preseason Heisman Trophy favorite. Maybe he even ends up winning the award, and he could end up being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next season. He could become the first Notre Dame quarterback to be drafted in the first round since Brady Quinn in the 2007 NFL draft. That alone changes the entire ceiling of this season. Then look at the defensive side of the ball. Notre Dame is bringing back a ton of talent, and they should have one of, if not the best secondaries in the entire country, with Leonard Moore and Adon Schuler, Tay Johnson, potentially Christian Gray if he decides to return as well. This has the makings of a truly elite defense. I also expect most of the coaching staff to return, including both coordinators, which would actually be a first in the Marcus Freeman era. That kind of continuity is massive when you're chasing championships, as we saw during the peak of the Clemson years when they had Brent Venables at defensive coordinator and Tony Elliott at offensive coordinator, leading both sides of the ball for years. That's when they won 2 national championships. And then, of course, there is the schedule. Let's call it favorable for Notre Dame at the very least. Based on how it looks today, Notre Dame is probably going to need to finish undefeated or 11-1 to make the college football playoff next year. But with the talent that's already on the roster and everyone coming back, that should absolutely be the expectation, not the hope. 10-2 would be a massive disappointment for Notre Dame next season. Now layer in the most important piece of news we've talked about today. The head coach is locked in for next year. With Freeman secured, it is officially time for Notre Dame to go all in on winning a national championship in 2026. The transfer portal officially opens up on Friday. I'm sure conversations and plans are already in motion. They always are for every team across college football, but this can't just be about plugging holes. This needs to be about raising the ceiling across the board. That means adding a legitimate difference maker at wide receiver, someone like Nick Marsh from Michigan State, or maybe even Cam Coleman from Auburn. Hell, I don't know, go after everyone, right? And Nick Marsh and Cam Coleman are going to be the most sought-after players in the portal. It also means adding multiple defensive tackles who can beef up the interior and take this defense from really good to truly elite. That means adding another tight end who has already produced at the college level, even if you like the guys currently in the room, because this isn't about making everyone happy. This is about going all in. And yes, that means adding a reliable kicker that you can actually trust all season long. But just as important, it also means retaining your own depth. Injuries are inevitable. We saw it during Notre Dame's playoff run in 2024. Championship teams aren't just built on frontline stars. They're built on quality 2-deep and sometimes even 3-deep players who can step in without the entire operation collapsing. Now, Notre Dame can do all of this with the security that the head man is going to be around. Because for the past few weeks, I'll admit, it was hard to speak definitively about anything this offseason because as long as Freeman's name was tied to NFL head coaching jobs, you knew that everything could change for Notre Dame overnight. If he left, the entire plan would have been flipped on its head. But now, that uncertainty is gone. For the first time in what feels like a long time, Notre Dame actually has some clarity and they can pour all of their energy into building a championship team for next season. They won't have to look far for motivation either. The college football playoff snub and all the outside noise and trash talk that followed and continues to happen seemingly every single day should be fueled during the hardest winter workouts. I know for a fact that Marcus Freeman and Pete Bavacqua aren't forgetting about it anytime soon, but honestly, beyond the outside noise, the opportunity in front of them should be motivation enough. Everything is right there. They have the quarterback, they have the roster, they have the staff, they have the resources. This is shaping up to be the most pressure-packed year of Notre Dame football that I can ever remember. And that is a weird but exciting place to be. On one hand, it's thrilling to enter a season with true national championship expectations. But on the other hand, it means every decision, every play, every mistake, every offseason move, it means it's all going to be scrutinized under a microscope if it doesn't directly serve winning a national championship. But look, I would take that reality every single time over the alternative. I would much rather Notre Dame head into 2026 knowing the only outcome that satisfies anyone is a national championship than staring down a rebuild because the head coach walked out the door. For now, that's not a concern. Marcus Freeman is going to be the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in 2026. And if he eventually leaves after delivering Notre Dame's first national championship since 1988, yeah, I think everyone can live with that. All right, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks as always for making Locked On Irish your first watch or listen of the day. I truly appreciate the support, and I would also really appreciate it if you made sure that you were subscribed on YouTube and following along on your favorite podcast platform. Go ahead and like the video, and if you're listening on audio, please rate and review the podcast because it really helps more Notre Dame fans find the show. By the way, if you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. You get ad-free episodes of the show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonirish.supercast.com. I'm going to be right back here tomorrow morning with Notre Dame basketball beat writer Tom Noy to recap the non-conference slate and look ahead to ACC play with conference action tipping off on Tuesday night against Stanford. I'll see you then. Go Irish.